So, hello, everyone. Welcome to the final results of our intention candles from the second new moon in Virgo we just had on September 21st. I've got little snippets for everybody, and we're going to start with Lorraine. So, Miss Lorraine, your candle's focus was, I manifest the best there is when I choose the best there is. And we were releasing the fear of deserving less than what I want, anticipation paralysis, and guilt for wanting better. We were drawing in all blessings deserved in the highest, relief with forward progress, and self-worth to replace those things. Now, looking at your candle, you can see there's definitely some wax on the word choose in your focus. And so I want you to consciously work on being comfortable with your choices, right? Being comfortable in the idea that you can choose and it not be wrong or be a mistake. You know what I mean? Because I think being afraid of choosing wrong might have something to do with it, especially because, your name is actually blocked out with the wax. It doesn't really hit all blessings deserved in the highest that much, and it doesn't really hit fear of deserving less than what I want, because if you look at that, it looks like the wax was everywhere else but on those two things. So with the wax being just on your name, I think it's you being your own block, right? The other places that we have a lot of wax where it's pretty thick is on letting go of anticipation paralysis and the guilt for wanting better. You're allowed to choose. And I think if you get that as your first step, being okay with choosing, that the anticipation paralysis might be easier to address. And maybe you won't feel so bad for wanting better than what you have. For lacking the incentive, feeling deserving of more, right? To bring that in for yourself. There wasn't as much wax on bringing in the relief with forward progress, so I think you are opening up to the idea of it being such a relief to choose, to finally move forward with certain things. But where we were drawing in self-worth, there was a lot of thick wax there too. So that's something that's behind it, right? Not feeling like you actually deserve better. So you feel guilty for asking for it because you're not sure if you really do deserve better or not, right? So I would really focus on that. Not just for, this moon cycle, but for the next few months, because this was an eclipse, right? And it's going to continue to unfold over the next several months as the nodes continue to transit through Virgo and Pisces. So it's definitely something to kind of consciously be aware of and work on throughout your day. Like, if you can remember to just remind yourself that you're worth it and you haven't done anything so wrong and so horrible that you should be denied whatever it is that you do want, and be willing to trust spirit on how to ground it in, right? Because that's what the red candle is. It's root chakra, how to manifest it and ground it in. So whatever blocks you have in your root chakra, whatever fears you have about instability, feeling not safe with your choosability, right? Your ability to choose. It's something that you should probably just keep in mind and consciously work on, especially the next few weeks, but overall for the next several months into 2026, right? So I hope that helps. I hope it gives you a good direction to kind of put your energy and helps you, realize what it is that you're focusing on with spirit, right? All right. Next we have Miss Cherie. So Cherie, Your candle's focus was an attitude of gratitude is as contagious as smiling at the sight of a rainbow. And we were letting go of stubborn resistance to joy in others around you, hesitancy over being loved, unknown and being honored. And we were bringing in my joy ripples as a mantra, love reciprocated, and the divine honors me as I honor myself, right? These were the things that we were bringing in to replace that which we were letting go of. And your candle on the whole is actually really, really clear. Like you can even see the very bottom of your candle through the glass and the front. So like it's really clear. There's just this light, hazy kind of residual wax over it on everything. Not really anything in particular, except your focus. That's crystal clear. But all of the releases and welcoming ins just had this light residual on it. And I think that honestly, I feel like it's mostly just a matter of getting comfortable with this energy, right? Because it's new. But I don't feel like you're actually blocked from it, because this is actually really good. So I would continue to just stay on that focus, right? Keeping your own attitude in check. And if other people are, being stubborn and they're resistant to joy and they're around you, like letting it just roll off your back, like, well, that's their day, it's not mine. Well, that's their attitude, it's not mine. I'm going to continue to be grateful, just like I had just seen a rainbow, and keeping that attitude. And I think that over time, you'll realize that other people are just drawn to your energy differently. Instead of negative people being drawn to you because your attitude isn't the greatest, I think if you keep that positive kind of contagious attitude, the right people won't hesitate to love your energy and let you know it, because they're going to join in on it. They're going to experience it around you. And being honored in that way by your mirrors, right? I think that would be really cool to receive it. So know that your joy ripples. Know that all the love energy, the light energy, that beautiful energy is always going to be reciprocated, and that the divine honors you as you honor yourself. So, Cherie, I hope that helps. Just know that you are definitely on the right track, and the focus, honestly, it should be easy for you. Whenever in doubt, just act as if you had just seen a rainbow. Just picture it in your mind like there's a beautiful rainbow just present for you, and it'll just turn your whole day around. All right. Next up, we have Miss Christen. So Miss Christen, your candle's focus was the love I share with others has no limits when I move beyond limited ways of loving them. We were letting go of disconnect from true power, fear of failing, and regret over highest actions due to insufficient clarity. And to replace those things, we were drawing in, I am one with the highest. Divine perfection is in the steps of imperfection, and trusting in divine presence. Now, your candle, it has lots of banding, right? Lots of really clear banding. It's not as prevalent on disconnect from true power. It's actually kind of interesting because on the glass, and I know the camera isn't picking it up, but there's almost like an odd break in the bands where it looks like it dripped down in a different way. It's kind of like lightning. And it draws the banding away from disconnecting from your true power. So I feel like that is definitely something that triggered release for you during this moon. The fear of failing, the banding's really light, especially around the words themselves. So I think you're becoming more comfortable with that energy. And even regret over highest actions due to insufficient clarity. The banding is heavier there on the release words. but it's still not nearly as heavy as some of the stuff on the receiving end. So I feel like these are things that you are already consciously working on and making progress with, and knowing that you can trust your intuition, right? Which really is a source of your true power. And you're not afraid to make mistakes because of that trust, right? It's not about insufficient clarity. It's about sufficient trust in what you feel and know to be accurate between you and spirit, right? So I think the release part's doing really well. What we want to really focus on for you is the drawing in. You know, I am one with the highest, had the least amount of banding of the three. I am one is clear. With the highest is banded. So I feel like you know your own wholeness. You just haven't accepted that you're at your highest vibration yet, which is fine because, you know, we're all works in progress. But it's to remember, you know, I guess that you're on your way towards that. You know what I mean? And then as we get into divine perfection is in the steps of imperfection, we had like medium level banding there compared to the other two energies that we were receiving. And it's accepting that divine perfection, not only is it possible, because it is, it really is. Like, people think, oh, perfect's not possible. But that's because they've accepted that they're wounded and they're not actually working on themselves. You know what I mean? And we have these imperfect manifestations, and we think that other people's judgments of us make us not perfect, when in reality, when we're listening to our intuition and we love who we look at when we look in the mirror, that is perfect. That is perfection, right? Knowing that you don't doubt your intuition, you trust it 100%, you listen to it all the time, you do as you're guided, you speak as you're guided, and you love who you are when you look in the mirror because of that. Like, that is divine perfection. Loving the self and acting in alignment with your highest good by listening to your intuition, like, that is perfection. What that transpires in the outer experience may or may not be perceived as perfect by you or other people, but it is most definitely something that is attainable, right? It's something that you can literally do. And not being quote unquote perfect is relative to perspective and who is judging it, including yourself. So trust, I guess, that you can act in alignment and love who you are because you act in alignment, and release the judgments of quote unquote imperfection, right? That it's okay to just trust in divine presence and the process, which is where your biggest blocks are receiving, trusting in the divine presence. There is a part of you, especially because with the highest was blocked out, and this trust in the presence has a whole lot of residual wax on it, more than anything else on the candle. I think sometimes maybe you feel alone, and that your divine presence is not there when it is a part of you. You can't actually be without it. Like, there might not be a quote unquote higher being existing somewhere outside of yourself, but trusting that it's within you because you have an intuition, because you have that voice, right? That nudge that lets you know when something is or isn't off. The divine's always present. It's always present. Our wounds mask it sometimes, but it's always there. And as we continue to dig and trust ourselves, that is trusting the divine. We can't trust ourselves and not trust the divine. Some people might not call it divine, but if they trust themselves, they do trust the divine. You know, it's the divine presence and essence within them that is a part of that self-trust. So I think over the next couple weeks, and especially with the rest of the nodal cycle with the Virgo Pisces axis, I feel like it's really welcoming in this idea that spirit is always with you, has always been with you, and will always be with you. And so long as you acknowledge it and knowing that, you know, your opinion of the outcomes of choices isn't necessarily going to always say like, oh, it happened perfectly. If you really think about it, the mirror of things and what it is that you're learning and where we denied our intuition along the way and where we could have chose different had we listened to it, how different the outcome might have been. Like, that is the divine's presence. You know, that is what the divine is here with us for. You know, no one obligates the divine to be present. It chooses to. The divine doesn't have to be present. We don't have to have that intuitive voice, that intuitive nudge. We don't have to see synchronicities. We don't have to be pinged. You know, like, it's the fucking divine. It's not obligated to anything. It loves us and is present for us by choice. And I think that's kind of profound when you think about it like that. So I hope that helps, Christen, especially not just for this you know, moon cycle, but moving forward into 2026. You know, as we go through these transits, it's definitely something to ponder on. All right, so we're going to move into Miss Elesa. So Miss Elesa, the focus of your candle was when who I have built myself to be has become the block to my spiritual path to ascension. I find relief in the crumbling of who I was. We were letting go of denying spiritual truths, ego attachments to being valued, and appearances for the sake of reputation. We were welcoming in to replace those things, signs and syncs to help guide that you can't miss or misinterpret, the value of the highest path, and divine disgust with the masks. So now your candle actually struggled burning through the focus, and the focus ended up being the clearest part of your candle, which I was really happy to see by the end of it all, because to be completely fair, sometimes like who we built ourselves to be served a purpose for the time being. It got us through things that were difficult at the time. But if we want to make progress and grow and manifest better, at some point we have to leave that version that we built of ourselves behind. And I think that moving forward, you are definitely going to be in a place where finding that relief and letting your old self, the old pieces of that self, start to fade away. You know, I'm getting like this visual of like when you crack an egg, the whole thing, this whole shell don't come off in one piece. Like you got to pick it off piece by piece. And sometimes you get lucky and like a whole patch of it will come off. But it's kind of like that. Like you've already let the crumbling start. Piece by piece, your self is going to start to shift. And I think that's a beautiful acknowledgement with your candle, right? Especially because you did have that struggle in the beginning, in the very beginning. You picked up after that. Your candle really did pick up energy after that, and it didn't even need any help doing it. So like kudos to you for having a good handle on yourself, right? I think I had mentioned it in one of the updates throughout the week that, you know, you never fail yourself. You never fail yourself. You might get close sometimes, but you don't. You never fail yourself. So the rest of your candle, it does have some residual that gets really heavy towards the bottom. So denying spiritual truths has a nice fog over it. None of this is banding. It's just all foggy. And then signs and syncs to help guide that you can't miss or misinterpret. So when you're in that place, I just spoke into your candle. I made that echo. Anyway, denying spiritual truths and syncs and signs, right, to help guide that you can't miss or misinterpret. If you are denying the fact that there are spiritual truths, you are going to miss the signs and syncs, right? You are going to misinterpret them. The reason why you deny spiritual truths is probably because the ego is bending the sign and sync to be what you want it to be, and not necessarily reading it for what it is meant to be. So, like, if you're seeing certain number patterns, like, repeatedly, or the same numbers in different order, or something like that, or if it's an odd number, I haven't mentioned it in a while, but there's an angels numbers site, Joanne's Sacred Scribe Angel Numbers, and it has so many different interpretations of the different number synchronicities, and it really does a good job of breaking down what the numbers are, what the numbers mean as individual pieces of the pattern, and then as a whole, and what it breaks down to as its own master number, right, that comes from that synchronicity. And no matter how many times I've looked up numbers on that app, even if I didn't realize what it was at the time or what it was talking about, it was always fucking right. It was always right. So if you're not sure what a certain synchronicity is, just make sure you're looking it up and mental note it without necessarily attaching what you think it means to it. Right? Just read what the meaning is for what it is. If you're seeing a certain weird animal popping up or something like that, or a certain angel is crossing your path, like, I don't know, maybe you saw something for Archangel Raguel and you never really see anything for that, but it crossed your path. You know what I mean? Like, just look up what Archangel Raguel is, because it's different and you weren't really anticipating seeing it, but it was enough to stop you to make you think about it. If it stops you enough to make you think about it, it is a sign or sync from spirit. The things that we see and we just, it goes by like it wasn't even there, like, that's not a sign or sync. But if it stops you long enough for you to think about it, that you are seeing what you're seeing, and it's prompting you even just a second to think about what it is that you just saw, just look it up. Google it. Let it be your best friend. Ask ChatGPT or something. I love my ChatGPT. So I would definitely tackle that first and foremost, because releasing those things does help you break down the rest of it. And it does get heavier as it goes down. So, like, ego attachments to being valued. I had watched something on Facebook, I think it was a reel that Teal Swan posted, and I'm pretty sure I shared it to the Facebook page. But ego attachments to being valued. She said, if you ask a person what love is, right, like how they want to be loved, she goes, most of the time people will tell you they just want to be valued. They just want to be valued. And she said, but if you think about it, someone can value you and still lie to you. She goes, what people really want, what they don't realize, is that they don't want to be valued. They want to be integrated into someone else's life. They want to be considered. They want to be thought of. They want someone else to act in a way that considers them as an extension of themselves. That you would not be hurt because someone considers you an extension of themselves, that you're not separate from them. Because when you integrate someone else as an extension of yourself, you do consider them, you do value them. You do reciprocate. All of the things that people want from the word love is inside of that definition. And I'm so glad that she had worded it the way she did, because it clicked how I love. My love language is integration. And I realized how inaccurate it was, even for myself, that I just wanted to be valued. So being valued, having that attachment right within the self to be valued, to be appreciated. I think it'll be easier to let it go if you start looking at it from that lens, right? From Teal Swan's lens. That you're looking to be integrated, not just, valued. Because that can be very on the surface, right? Integration is deep. And I even had this conversation with my son, like, at the wee hours this morning. I just randomly texted him. And I let him know, like, just so that you know, like, I don't love you because you're my son and you hold that label. Like, even if you weren't my quote-unquote son, I choose to love you the way that I do. I know that I could just up and go if I really wanted to. I choose to be here. I choose to consider you as an extension of myself. And I would choose it every day, like I always have, and I will continue to do that. I choose it. Like, don't ever feel that my love towards you is obligated just because I'm your mom. I've known you your whole life, and getting to know you as closely as I have, like, I choose it. And I just wanted you to know that, And I got the best response from him. I did. I got the best response from him, and it was so nice to just have him know that, that me choosing to integrate him into my life as an extension of who I am, that I care about him and consider him always. It was a huge relief for him, because you don't even realize how much things bother you on the subconscious until someone brings it to the surface and you find yourself teary-eyed over what they said, which is exactly what he ended up doing. But, like, it matters to get the definitions of the words right and really know what they mean. Like, that matters. So I hope that helps, I hope that helps address that kind of block on your candle right on the release end. The appearance is for the sake of reputation. The word reputation had the thickest block of wax left. I feel that who you've built yourself to be, right, because this is the focus of your candle, was highly dependent on your reputation. That you are known to be certain things, that people expect these things of you, and you show up and you provide exactly that expectation, that you don't let anybody down. I would ask you to consider how many times you've let yourself down because you didn't want to let anybody else down. And how did it feel knowing you let yourself down? Because if it didn't feel good, then that is your inner GPS saying, hey, the choices that you're making for the sake of your reputation and others, it doesn't feel good. It's not in alignment, right? It's not in alignment. So it's something to definitely address between now and the next cycle. Where we have on the receiving end, value of the highest path and divine disgust with the masks, those were completely blocked out with wax. There's not banding, it's just thick there. So knowing that you're prioritizing who you've built yourself to be, right? That you have prioritized that. You have dismissed the value of the highest path, your highest good path, completely. Like, I know your personal astrology and who you are and where you light up heavy in your chart. It conflicts with your rising. It's in square. So, like, who you are, who you have built yourself to be, where you believe you shine, is actually in detriment to your ascendant. which is very free spirit and believing and trusting in outcomes. You've lost faith in highest good outcomes. And so I think that's definitely something to think about, because you're having a hard time welcoming it in over these things that you can't seem to let go of, right? How could you embrace the highest good path, the value of the highest good path, when you're attached to being valued instead of integrated, right? And divine disgust with the masks, beings that's blocked out, there's a certain level of feeling that the masks are required. And that ties in to the reputation bit. Like, you have to wear this mask because you have a reputation. So you can't get disgusted with the masks, because otherwise you would be sacrificing your reputation, right? Or at least that's the perceived fear or risk. And so I want you to kind of piece those puzzles together, piece the puzzle together, with these different elements of your candle, because, with the lilac, light purple candle, it's all crown chakra work. It's all about opening the self up to the divine and surrender and allowing the ego, the things that we choose against the intuition, against our better feelings, allowing that to start to break down. And so I do feel like piece by piece, you're going to get there. I don't want you to feel frustrated with yourself, but I think being consciously aware of where you may be your own biggest challenge, right? Where who you've built yourself to be might be your own biggest challenge. Moving forward, not just, with this moon cycle, but throughout the duration of this Virgo Pisces nodal axis, with this moon being so tied to the eclipses, of the season. It's something that's going to continue to unfold and kind of develop into 2026, right? As the Pisces and Virgo nodes continue into 2026. So it's definitely something to just kind of keep on the conscious mind, as far as, getting those signs and syncs, mental noting them without attachments to what it could be, and just watching how spirit communicates with you, watching how the things that you've been pulling from your experience, that you've been getting these, kind of spiritual downloads of information as you look up these things, how they end up unfolding, because you'll start to understand how spirit works and how spirit speaks and why, and I think it will really help you once you learn to understand spirit's language, which really is Piscean, right? That's our north node right now. You'll see as the south node kind of transits through Virgo what is being erased, right? Because the south node, the way I describe south node, it's like a magical spiritual eraser. If it's in misalignment, the south node starts to erase it. Like, oh, that's in misalignment, gotta let it go. Oh, that's in misalignment, gotta let it go. And it starts to tackle things. It's really kind of awesome, but we're not necessarily prepared for it. So as south node transits through Virgo, the different things that, are reflected in your chart there, it is going to be a piece by piece thing as we get you into the language of spirit, right? For sure. So I hope that helps. I hope being able to see your candle and where you're at and where the blocks are and what you can work on really does help, because it's all within your control, right? All of this stuff is within your control. And you can choose anything you want to choose. You really can. Spirit will guide you every step of the way, because spirit chooses to integrate with us, just like I said in Christen's candle breakdown, like spirit, the divine, it's not obligated to love us. It's not obligated to speak to us through our intuition. It's not obligated to give us signs and synchronicities. It chooses to integrate itself with us and let us have that part of it as a part of us. It doesn't have to do that. It chooses to love us all the time, every day, non-stop. Spirit chooses it. The divine chooses it. It's really just a matter of whether or not we choose to embrace it, right? It's a matter of whether or not we choose to embrace it. So it's definitely something to kind of think on, stay consciously aware of. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed the candles and that you feel good about the process and at least where you are, so you know what you can work on, what you can consciously work on. And I will see you guys for the next event. All right. Much love, everybody.